We're going to be talking about online travel booking stocks and maybe get a few tricks of the trade from traveler guru himself, Dan Klein, while we're at it. But we're going to dive into two of the major online travel and reservation sites, Booking Holdings and Expedia. Two companies, Dan, they control over 70% of the online travel market. That is huge to me.
Yeah, and I will say is both companies have made travel easier and travel harder. So back when I first started traveling for business, I'm 45. My first business trip came when I was 20. So, you can do the math there. A lot of years ago, we called a travel agent who had magic tools in front of her, probably some sort of computer, and figured out what the best price was for what we were trying to do. Now, when I book travel, and I travel 2 or 3 times a month, come up there usually once a month, when I book travel, there's always this nagging suspicion that I've somehow left money on the table. Because when you look at the various properties owned by Booking, which include Priceline and Kayak and Booking.com itself, or Expedia, which owns Expedia and Hotwire and a whole bunch of other things, there's all sorts of different ways to book travel, and it's not always easy to figure out which one to use. And that sort of benefits these companies.
That's a good point. Let's actually dive right into Booking Holdings, because this would be the largest of the two. Actually, just from a market cap standpoint, it has a market cap $82 billion right now. A company previously known as Priceline. I know it's gone through a couple of name changes. Now it is Booking Holdings. That's ticker symbol BKNG. Dan, I was looking at Booking Holdings. 2019 hasn't necessarily been a great year for them so far. At one point, they were down nearly about 20% off of their highs from 2018. But tell us first, what is Booking Holdings? Because they've got a lot going on.
Yeah, they're a collection of travel sites. In addition to that, they own OpenTable, which is somewhat of an outlier, though it's obvious to see how restaurant reservations and travel match up pretty well. But they're, let's call them their core sites in the US, are Booking.com, which is kind of a traditional travel site. You go to Booking.com and you say, I want to visit Orlando a week from now. I'd like to stay in a hotel, and I don't want to make any stops. And it gives you the best pricing or the most convenient pricing. It actually gives you multiple options. Sometimes it's the cheapest, and the cheapest can be really strange, like you leave from one airport but fly home to another, and you can pick cheapest or best and all sorts of different options. Priceline is a travel bidding site. This is actually my site of choice. And what happens on Priceline is you can go in and you can see what's available and what the prices are. Then you have a couple of other options. Priceline is famous for its name your own price tool. What that means is I can say, all right, you're showing me hotels in Alexandria, Virginia, downtown. And the cheapest hotel is the Westin for $199 a night. That's where I usually stay. And I don't think that's really, I don't think that's the best deal I can get. So you have two options. You can go into Express Deals, and Express Deals will show you the area of the hotel, how many stars it is, and what its rating is. Basically, do people like it or not on a 1 to 100% scale? I guess technically a 0 to 100% scale. And you could say, all right, I want a 3-star hotel, Alexandria Old Town, I don't care what it is, and you get it, and it comes back, and it's one of 4 hotels because there's only a few in the area, and you're relatively happy with it. Or you could do name your own price, which doesn't show you any price. You say, all right, I want a 3-star hotel, same thing, downtown Old Town Alexandria, and I'm only willing to pay $75 for it. And you put that offer in, and it might come back to you one of 3 ways, really. It can reject your offer. They might come back and say, hey, nobody's willing to sell it to you for $75, but if you increase your offer to $92, you have a really good chance. In fact, I've almost always gotten my room when it does that. The third choice is it comes back and says, hey, you didn't get it, and you have the option to go in and make some changes. You can lower your star rating, you could add another area, you could change your dates, and it becomes sort of this game of how low will the hotel go? Same thing for airfare. And when it comes to airfare, there's certain parameters. You could say like no red eyes, but if it's a short trip, you might find yourself booking tickets that leave late Monday night and really early Wednesday morning, and it minimizes your trip. So you have to be really careful, but I find that it's an area where you can save a lot of money if you're not married to one particular brand or another.
So Dan, I have to ask, I've never used Priceline, but in using that service, the name your own price tool, What's your success rate when you submit a price? Like, would you say 90% of what you submit gets accepted, or what does that look like percentage-wise?
So if I'm using name your own price, it's probably 60-40. But that said, I'm only going to use name your own price in an area I know really well. For example, Alexandria is not a big city. And when you look at how Priceline in its, full disclosure area breaks it up, you can see that there's 4 or 5 3 or 4 star hotels that are sort of close to the office. The farthest one away is a little bit far in the winter, so you might want to take an Uber if it's snowing or it's really cold out. So I know the area, and 9 months out of the year, if I do a blind bid, I know that yes, I want to get the Westin or one of the 2 or 3 hotels very close to the office. On the other hand, I won't be upset if I get the one that's about a mile and a quarter away. So I know the area, I know every possible hotel it's going to put me in, and I'm comfortable doing a blind bid. Sometimes I'm less comfortable doing a blind bid. Maybe I got rejected on one, and I need to expand my area, or I couldn't get the express deal I wanted, and I want to try different things. So in those cases, you really just have to do your homework. Look at what's around, figure out what the brands are. You can see what was just booked, and sometimes if you do the express deal, it gives you little hints like you've stayed here before. Well, if I've only stayed at one hotel in that area, I know what it is. If I've stayed at 2 or 3, you have to think about, geesh, did I like all those hotels? When I stay out by Baltimore near the casinos, there's 3 or 4 hotels of the same star range, and 2 of them are walking distance and 2 of them are not. And sometimes I'd really prefer being walking distance. So it makes sense to not do a blind bid and to book something when I know what it is. So you have to be very, very strategic, and you have to do your homework.